Good morning. Hope everybody's having a wonderful weekend. We are back with a review of the last week, which showed some activity, with the focus being on NVIDIA's earnings as well as the PCE report, which came out on Friday. Both of these came out in line with expectations. However, with NVIDIA, the expectation was that it would perhaps beat it by a significant margin, which was not the case. Also, the earnings from the Chinese data centers was excluded from the earnings forecast for next year, which was a bit worrying for the investors. As a result, both the shares of Nvidia as well as the level of the markets dipped overnight, and there was a lot of downward movement, which led to the market as well as Nvidia dropping significantly. These losses were paired subsequently, especially after the PCE report came out, which showed the inflation numbers to be as expected. Therefore, markets have pretty much just moved sideways during this time. This is going to remain the trend as the inflation expectations remain on the high. They went up slightly after the PCE data came out, and it is now becoming increasingly apparent that the rate cut that is expected in September may actually be happening. So the next week will guide further in that regard when the jobs report comes out next Friday. So that is something that we will now need to wait for. Let's see what that throws as far as the markets are concerned. Oil continued to move sideways, not much movement there. There was some talk of sanctions on Iran, which pushed oil higher for a bit, but then it has been moving sideways now for the last 2 or 3 days. Gold did pick up when there was some volatility in the markets, as is always the case, and is hovering at the level of 3450 for the last day or two. Bitcoin dropped, then rose, then dropped again. It is now at the support level of 108,000. I think it will stay at this level. I don't think it will drop further. But let's see what next week brings. The Nasdaq, again, it had losses following Nvidia's report. Then it pared its losses, and then there was some consolidation at that level. Not what I would call a significant drop, just some consolidation at that level. The US dollar seems to be weakening as the rate cut expectations are going up. That is understandable. The US dollar was weakening against the euro on Thursday and Friday, especially after the PCE report solidified expectations of a rate cut in September. The similar was the story with Nasdaq. Went down after the earnings from Nvidia and then came back up again subsequently, and has now been hovering at the level of 23,400 overnight. This has been the story for last week. Let's see what next week brings. Focus will be on the jobs report for next Friday, and we'll see you next Friday.